Hi, and welcome to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn, and I wanted to first and foremost say thank you. I've been getting a ton of feedback on iTunes and Facebook and on the site itself, so thank you, and emails. So thanks so much to everyone who's been giving me such positive feedback. Thanks, guys. A bunch more shout outs coming for the iTunes reviews very shortly. So I wanted to get into a couple very interesting beers. Beers that I will admit I brought into the store. I thought they were interesting enough to give a try, but I wasn't quite sure how good they were going to be. You know, I was talking to somebody about gimmick beers, and I said, these beers seem kind of gimmicky to me. And the guy that I was talking to said, well, I don't know if they're gimmicky or not. I've got a beer delivery coming in a second. I can already see them coming. I don't know if they're gimmicky or not. You know, kind of a chili beer. Actually, hold on one sec. You know what? I'm getting a beer delivery right now, but the show's always just kind of gone on, and it's going to continue to go on. So this is just what it is. I have a beer store. I'm not open yet. I'm getting a delivery. There's going to be guys that I'll be talking to off camera. Oh well. Gimmick beers, let's talk about that. You know, a lot of times beers I think are driven by marketing first. I was talking to someone about it, and he was like, you know, the chili and the chili pepper and the chili beer, that's a gimmick. I don't know if these beers are gimmicks, and I'll get into what these are in a moment. And I said, you know what, you're right. It might not be a gimmick. It might just be creativity driving beer. And really at the end, what's the difference between a gimmick and creativity other than does it taste good? So I will taste through these beers, describe them to you a little bit, and then let you guys know what I feel, if it's a gimmick or not. Hopefully I didn't bring in two crappy gimmicky beers into my store. They weren't cheap for me to buy. But it's also from two gypsy breweries as well. So a gypsy brewery is, and these guys are coming. Hey, you can just set it right over there. Don't mind me doing my little video. So these are two gypsy breweries, and that means they don't own their own production facility. They kind of go around to wherever there is excess capacity available to them. The first is Stillwater from Maryland, but like I said, they brew all over the place. This one was actually brewed in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and it's called Premium. And Premium is basically there, I guess, kind of poking fun at, you can just put it over there. They're poking fun at, I guess, Pabst Blue Ribbon. They're calling it a post-prohibition style ale. So they're taking a lager malt bill, like an adjunct lager. So they're doing corn and rice and Pilsner malt, but then they're actually fermenting it with Saison yeast and two wild yeasts. So they're taking PBR and throwing some wild yeast into it and some DuPont yeast. I don't know. Is that going to be any good or not? That it? You all set? All right, one sec. Okay, am I ever gonna get around to drinking these beers, actually? So Premium, yeah, so they took an adjunct lager and they basically brewed it as you would, I guess, a craft beer. So they threw some farmhouse ale and then two types of Brettanomyces, which is a wild beer. Just watching it, the carbonation's really kind of kicking up. I guess that's the Brett, I would imagine, kind of continuing to ferment in the bottle here. This is a 4.5% beer. Beautiful label art on all the Stillwater stuff. I mean, I really think it's great. But you know, the proof is in the pudding. Is this beer any good? So it's a very, very light beer. You know, and that's from the grain bill. So the color of the beer is almost entirely going to come from the malt that you're using, or the grains. And if you're using all Pils malt with corn and rice, it's going to be very, very light. And that's, you know, so does he call it a post-prohibition? Yeah, so they have pre-prohibition lagers, is kind of popular to say now, but this is a post-prohibition lager, saying it's a macro, or it's an ale, jeez. Post-prohibition lager isn't, a pre-prohibition lager is a style, so he's saying a post-prohibition, which is the macro, but he's brewing it with ale yeast. Whatever. a nice kind of lemony note to it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the nose on the Flower Child. Kind of, yeah, an earthy lemon. Very light, but pleasant. Okay, so it's dry. Has yeah, look, definitely some bottle re-fermentation going on. You're getting the kind of foam peeking up out of the bottle here. So as that kind of goes, I will tell you about the beer. Dry. It's got a little bit of a harsh, bitter quality to it, much more than you would ever expect from an actual macro lager. It is lemony. I would say that I'm getting more of the Saison yeast, that kind of peppery lemon note, than I am any of the Brett. Maybe a little bit of, like I said, dustiness. Very mild. Really, it's the yeast that is showing here, because the malt bill is pretty much non-existent. I think it's about $8 or $9 a bottle, and it's fine. It is a good beer. It's a tasty beer. Is it revolutionary? No. It's just a really light bodied beer that allows the yeast to shine. But then again, aren't Belgian Saisons light-bodied beers that let the yeast shine as well? So it's a good beer. I'm going to go 87 with this beer. It's decent, but it's nothing amazing. So on this one, I'm going to say gimmick. If you're going to let this beer shine through, maybe pull up the body just a bit, or make it a little creamier, add some wheat to it perhaps, and, really try to let that yeast shine. Maybe the corn and the rice isn't ideal for it. Just my 2 cents. Okay, now to another one. This is ToOl and Mikkeller, two gypsy brewers, Scandinavian ones. They're both out of Denmark. I think I've had both of these guys on in the past. I've in the past said that Mikkeller is guilty of marketing-driven beers, perhaps gimmicky, and both these guys, and ToOl and Mikkeller in particular, since they don't have their own facilities, they don't really hone in on recipes necessarily like some other brewers do, where they have a couple stalwart beers and they just really kind of nail it down and produce it consistently and make it as good as they can. They just try different things, and sometimes it seems like they're almost just throwing something on the wall and seeing what sticks. And they get some excellent beers. Mikkeller and ToOl both make great beers, but Mikkeller also has done some duds, And when you're doing so much experimentation, that can happen. You can't make a masterpiece every time on your first try. Now, some breweries can make many, many masterpieces because they just focus on that one. So it isn't really their first try either. They've been honing those recipes for years. This beer is Walk on Water. It's a collaboration with these two, ToOl and Mikkeller. And I'm going to pour myself just a little bit. This beer is also kind of a pricey beer here. And it was their attempt to make the lowest gravity beer in the world ever. So gravity is basically a measure of the density of the liquid. Usually it tells you how much sugar is in your water, because the gravity of water is 1, and then everything over that is basically going to be attributed to sugars. And that's how you can actually tell what your home brewers can tell what their alcohol percentage is, because they take the gravity before fermentation, see how much sugar is there. After fermentation, see how much sugar is there. They see how much sugar has disappeared, and basically that has become alcohol. And that's how you can tell how strong your beer is. So what they're trying to do here is make a beer where all the sugars have been converted to alcohol. Alcohol weighs less or is lighter than water, so it'll have a lower gravity, where sugars are heavier than water or denser than water. So this is still going. There are some beers I've heard that have been able to get under 1. They are mainly, from what I've heard, the diet beers, the 55s and 64s of the world, where they're just so light and so precise and so bone dry because dryness is basically related to how much sugar is in there. Dryness is the opposite of sweetness. So what these guys did is they put a lot more sugar in their beers to begin with than those diet beers, which are really in the 2 or 3% alcohol range. This is 14% alcohol. It's a 14% pale alcohol. So what's it going to be? It's going to be bone dry. And is this creative versus gimmickry? Gimmickry? I don't know if that's a word. I don't know. Who cares about the driest beer in the world? Does that matter? It just needs to be an awesome beer. Maybe it is an awesome beer. And maybe bone dry, really high alcohol pales are awesome. You know, I do like West Coast style IPAs, and those are very dry. Maybe I like this one too, as I glance at my watch. So again, light, almost as light as the premium, but not quite. Just a little bit of golden color on there. Smells pretty boozy. A little musty. This is a fresh beer, so I don't think it's, you know, gone bad. Some weird kind of varnish smells to it. I think some of these some of this yeast was putting off some weird notes as it was fermenting feverishly to get every ounce of sugar in there. Yeah, definitely some kind of varnish or polish or furniture polish stuff going on here. And really that's the main thing. I'm not getting a lot of malt. I'm not getting a lot of hops. I mean, some hops. Yeah, that weird, you know what it reminds me of? Some of that same garbagey smell that I had from their sleepover IPA that ToOl did, which I hated on this show. Really weird smell, not into it. I almost spit it out. This beer's harsh. It's not as bone dry, it's not as light in the mouth as I thought. It's very alcoholic. It's actually warming my mouth and warming my esophagus. It's pretty much unpleasant. I don't see a lot of redeeming qualities in this beer. It does have that harsh, high alcohol, some of the fusel notes in there, some nail polish remover, an odd little peach note to it, like a rotting peach smell. Not a fan of this beer at all. I don't really think I need to go too much into it. You're welcome to try it. It's kind of a big, boozy, black with kind of gross tones to it. In fact, my whole stomach now feels warm from it. And I've had higher alcohol beers than 14% and been fine. 75? I mean, it's, what would that be, like a C- or something, or a D+. Completely uninteresting, a bad beer. There are premium, you know, American lagers that I think I would rather have than this, like a Stella or a, you know, or a Beck's, although those are international lagers, whatever. Not a fan. So we'll go somewhat creative, somewhat gimmick, full-blown gimmick on this beer. You know, just my opinion. That doesn't mean you guys shouldn't try them or buy them from me, because I'm stuck with them now. You know, I'm gonna have these open for the store. And we'll see what other people think of it too. You know, just one man's opinion here. That's about it, guys. Thank you so much for dealing with all the hubbub that was going around. I appreciate it. You know, the sirens and all. And thanks so much. Keep the comments coming. I will have the shout-outs coming. And have some fun shows coming up. A lot of awesome beer is going to be tasted out on this show very shortly in the next couple episodes. So look forward to that as well. Guys, thank you so much. I am Chris Quinn. This is the Beer Temple. I've got some interesting, somewhat creative beers to drink, and I hope that you do too.